Good morning, and welcome to the DFS Army YouTube channel. I'm Razzle11, and you can find me on X at Razzle11Grinds. Going to take a look at pitching for today, the 27th of September. It is Saturday. We do have a 7-game day slate and a 7-game main slate ahead of us this evening. Playoff pictures kind of coming into focus. A couple more teams were eliminated last night. And we shouldn't have any weather to worry about. Looks like our weather station is not going to be available today, but post I saw, very minimal things to worry about. So we get to look into pitching for what they are at this point. A reminder that this is a first look, and I will be looking at DraftKings as that is where a majority of my action is. If you do play in FanDuel, I'll cut my pool in half or so. Pricing isn't quite as tight. You don't have to be as creative. It allows you to get the stacks you want with an upper tier-ish pitcher. Now, with all that said and done, let's just jump into some of these matchups. Baltimore, New York. Important game for the Yankees. They're still in a virtual tie with Toronto. I think Toronto has the tiebreaker for the division. So the Yankees do need to win out and just hope for Toronto to go 1-1 today and tomorrow. So pretty important spot because it's the difference between the number 1 seed in the AL and the number 4. With that said, Cam Schlittler, definitely somebody that's shown plenty of upside. Annoying that his last start was against this Baltimore team. I've obviously said it a lot. Hate when SPs are making back-to-back starts against the same team. Definitely gives away some of the advantage and leans more towards the offense in that scenario. With that said, overall, he's been really impressive. Not as impressive at home, but that's all right. I think there's plenty of upside here. There's some volatility, but if I remember correctly off the top of my head, he is more of a reverse splits guy, and Baltimore should be fairly left-hand heavy. Doesn't mean he can't give up some home runs in this ballpark, but still, I think Schlittler has plenty of upside. And we should see, upper 80s into the maybe low 90s for pitch count out of him. On the other side, Chigano, not somebody I'm interested in. His last start came against this Yankees team, and he gave up 2 home runs. He's given up 9 home runs over his last 5 starts. Pretty good spot for the Yankees offense. St. Louis, Chicago. Jameson Taillon has been pretty impressive. I just don't expect him to pitch deep enough in here. Chicago is locked into the number 4 seed. So I just don't see them giving Taillon much of a leash, especially because he's spent plenty of time on the IL so far this season. He struggled against St. Louis the first time he faced them. 3 home runs in that start. It's quite a few. Based on the start time of this game, it's going to be slight winds blowing maybe out to right center. So it's easier to pull us off of Taillon and then off of McGreevy as well. McGreevy, definitely somebody that I think is better than he's shown. His K numbers against Chicago have been atrocious, so we're going to pass. Kyle Tucker's back for the Cubs. I expect him to be in the lineup, even though they may start resting a couple of the guys. Tucker just returned from the IL, so I would expect that he's going to see a handful of at-bats. May not play the full game, probably DHs again. Trey Yasevich, really dominant first start, struggled mightily in the second start. He is taking on the team that he faced in his first start. His second start saw an increase of just 7 pitches over his first one. He did struggle a bit more in that one. So that could also be why he only saw a 7-pitch increase. I'm interested just because Tampa Bay away from home has been weaker. I don't necessarily love the fact that, 2 of his first 3 career starts are against the same team, but the game matters. Now that's both a positive and a negative in this scenario. If Yasevich is just struggling even slightly, I see them going to the bullpen a little earlier, limiting his upside and not allowing him to, bounce back a little bit and rack up some strikeouts to raise his floor. But at the same time, He's been a super impressive pitcher in the minor after being a first-round pick last year. So he's accelerated pretty quickly. I think he has plenty of upside, but he's probably not somebody I want much more than maybe 20% of on this slate. White Sox Nationals, Sean Burke, not going to get there. Even though the Nationals just hit a bunch of home runs last night, I could see some regression today. Jake Irvin on the other side, probably not going to go there either. Basically just two appearances or starts with double-digit fantasy points since the end of July. Just no real reason to try to rely on pitching in that matchup. Colorado, San Francisco, Kyle Freeland, pitching in a pitcher's ballpark. Maybe he's capable of doing something decent, but I'm actually on the Giants bats a bit more. He's given up more home runs on the road than at home this year. Just wild to see. Just doesn't strike many guys out, etc. So, but on the other side, Verlander, his last start of the season, probably going to battle to get his ERA under 4. I'm not sure, if we're going to see more than 5 innings. Obviously, 4 of his last 6 starts, he's thrown over 100 pitches. I just don't see that happening now that they are officially eliminated. But the matchup is great. So, I really think Verlander probably does see 5 innings. I wouldn't expect anything more than 6, to be honest, unless he's just throwing a dominant no-hitter, perfect game type performance. But I think, as we saw last night with McDonald, just a ton of upside in a pitcher against Colorado, especially in a pitcher's park. Boston, Detroit, kind of early, struggled a bit in his last appearance. Kind of gone down each start since his debut, but Detroit is striking out plenty. I do worry about pitch count issues. Boston did clinch a playoff spot, so I'm not sure. I like the upside, so I will mix them in. I just don't want to be too invested just in case we only see a 60 to 70 pitch performance again, because he's going to have to be super efficient. Young guys generally aren't efficient, especially young strikeout guys like Early could be. Last game, Miami and the Mets. Yuri Perez is going to interest me because I think we can see... Actually, we can't see. The Mets haven't clinched yet. I was going to say we might see a little different of a lineup, but they need to win. The D-backs were eliminated, so it's just down to the Reds or Mets, and they are in a tie for the last playoff spot. With that said, Yuri Perez might be somebody I want to mix in. I'm just not interested in the Mets pitchers and their piggyback thing. I'm just going to pass. This slate just is not the greatest for pitching, I will be honest. I would go with the super small pool. I know I didn't mention Joe Boyle. I think he's viable. He did shut down Toronto before. It's an important spot for Toronto, but Boyle has a lot of upside, but he's got a lot of volatility as well. So based on the pitching slate, I think Boyle's in play. Heading over to the main slate. First game, Pitt, Atlanta. Spencer Strider in a shitty season for him. Good spot. I just don't think they're going to push him to 100 pitches because it means nothing. With that said, it also means a lot for him to close out the season strong after a rough year. So I am interested in him. Kind of similar to Justin Verlander on the earlier slate. I think he can do enough to get there in 5 to 6 innings. I really would be shocked if he throws more than, 85, 90 pitches. On the other side, Bubba Chandler. Been pretty impressive. Obviously, last start for a young arm. Probably in the 70 to 80 pitch mark. He's only crossed the 80 pitch mark once. It's tough to trust him in that small of a sample. But I think there's upside there. There's strikeouts definitely to be had in the Atlanta lineup. The bottom half of that lineup can be weaker depending on what they roll out there. So I think Chandler has upside. I just don't see him going more than 5 innings at this point. Texas, Cleveland. Important game for Cleveland. They are still in a tie with Detroit. I believe they do have the tiebreaker, so it pushes Detroit to the last wildcard slot. So because of the importance, I am interested a little bit in Joey Cantillo. The Rangers lineup has been pretty blah of late, at least the one that they're running out there. He hasn't allowed more than 1 run in an appearance since his first start in August. So recent trends are really strong. Upside's a little limited, but the game does matter, so I am interested. Because as long as he's performing well, he's going to be out there. The other side, Jacob Latz, back to throwing out of the bullpen recently. Get some rest before another start. Jack Leiter absolutely dominated Cleveland yesterday, which I wasn't expecting to see. I just don't think I'm going to go to Latz as much as I do have an interest in a left-handed pitcher against Cleveland. I just don't think Latz is the guy for me today. Cincy, Milwaukee. Milwaukee just 1 game up on Philly for the number 1 seed now. So the game does matter. The problem is like, how are we going to predict these pitching performances? Gasser might, could throw 45, 50 pitches again, and it wouldn't shock me. Mizorowski then is going to do what, though, behind him? 45, 50 pitches? Like, I just don't think we can mess with that as much as I want to, because Cincinnati strikes out a ton, or has the ability to strike out a ton. I just don't know that we can trust either. Now, if we get more of a breakdown as the afternoon progresses, then that might put one of these guys in play, but I just don't expect to get all that much information because the game does still matter for the Brewers. On the other side, Andrew Abbott, super important spot for him, for he and the team. He's been pretty solid against the Brewers so far this season, a 27 and an 11 or so. So there's plenty of upside. It's just not the best of matchups for him. I'm going to hold out. I might be interested in sprinkling it in just because, like I mentioned, when games matter, if a guy's doing pretty well, they're going to let him go. And in that, in this scenario where some teams are just done and going to pull pitchers after 3, 4, 5 innings, those extra innings really matter on this slate. So I think I have to consider Abbott. Arizona, San Diego. Arizona was eliminated last night. Basically, neither team's playing for much. I don't think King will go all too deep based on his injury history this year. He's kind of been 50 to 70 pitches recently. Probably going to be the same spot here. I want to be able to use him, but I just can't trust that he's going to go deep enough. Eduardo Rodriguez might be in play depending on the lineup we do see. I don't really love it, but I'm going to hold out and wait to see what San Diego rolls out before I make a decision on Eduardo Rodriguez. Houston and the Angels, I'm going to pass on both guys. Caden Dana, upside is an arm, but a ton of walks, ton of base runners. I'm just not going to get there. Blue Ball will look pretty good in this spot, but 50 and 34 pitches. Like, he's probably only going to throw 50 to 60, maybe 70 pitches. It's an important game for Houston. They are 1 game back, I believe, of Detroit, so could be a strong bullpen game from them. So I'm just not going to go that route. Dodgers, Seattle. Seattle just 1 game behind actually 2 games. They might have actually been eliminated from winning the 1 seed. So I'm going to want to read into that. Gilbert probably doesn't see much action, to be honest. Probably similar to what the Dodgers did with Sheehan last night. Glasnow as well, not going to be stretched out. As much as, we love those 2 names, there's just no reason to use them just because I don't think they're going to see more than 4 innings. I have to dig into the tiebreakers to see if Seattle matters or not. Kansas City and the A's. Luis Morales kind of limping to the deadline or the end of the season here. He was really strong, but now he's given up 2 home runs in each of his last 3 starts. Probably going to have to pass on him. Same with Walker. I'm just going to end up passing. I like Morales, but Kansas City doesn't strike out all that much. So unless we see a watered-down Kansas City lineup, I just don't see a reason to rely on Morales this evening. But there we have it. There's our first look at the pitching. If you enjoy what I bring to you, please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, turn the notification bell on, get the alert anytime we drop videos here at DFS Army. If you want to join us, get access to our coaches, tools, sheets, Discord, etc., I will drop a link in the description below. You can use promo code RAZ, that's R-A-Z, for 10% off monthly. And I will drop the link to the merch store. You can check out my design, some of the other ones as well. And as always, best of luck, everybody.